That's partly what I'm going to present to you is the psychological stuff as to how we deal with somebody that is gay, lesbian, bisexual, and how do they then live in the world and come to a place where they're going to be okay. So I'm going to come from it from that psychological perspective, but I'm also going to come from it from the more spiritual aspect. And I say spiritual, but I will be informed slightly by Islam, because that's my background. And I will introduce that because I've become more and more aware of the limitations of psychology and being able to bring people to that point quickly of being able to understand and accept themselves. So that is the psycho-spiritual perspective that I'm going to be chatting to you about. I call this discussion the power of the mind and the greatness of the soul. How we as people start looking at being okay with who we are in our sexualities. Okay. So as a psychologist, of course, the position is that when you're going to help somebody to feel okay in their world and in their environment, what you do is find out how they see themselves first. Okay. So then you start from that point as a psychologist and you say, well, how do you look at yourself and what was your experiences to get you to that point of seeing yourself in this way? So the theory in psychology is that when you're born, your mother looks at you. And the way that she looks at you will determine how you see yourself. So if she looks at you with love and admiration and acceptance, you feel admirable, acceptable, lovable. If she looks at you as a whole being, oh, beautiful baby, and others do the same, you can't feel, beautiful baby. If you're hungry and she cries and she feeds you, essentially you in your little baby mind say, hey, I get hungry, I make this noise, and then I get food. Very cool. I can do this. I create this amazing thing. I'm capable of taking care of me. So that's that process that psychologists talk about in that theory of. So this mother is this mirror. And when you look in this mirror, what you see is awesome, beautiful, amazing. Okay? And then the theory says, from there, if you have that experience, which is nurturing and loving and holding and responding to what your needs are, then you're going to be confident. And you're going to go into the world, and no matter what the world does, if it's challenging, if it's nice, you're not going to think, hey, I'm a terrible person. The world is terrible. You're actually going to feel, the world is challenging. I'm okay. I have a center that's good, a core sense of myself, of who I am. I'm a person, I'm lovable, I'm okay, I'm confident. That's a problem outside of me, and I can either deal with it or I'm going to struggle. But there's no sense of suddenly I'm not okay. That problem is outside of you. That problem is not okay. So when you have that kind of mirror, you're okay. The community, the extended family, the community, the world, then also reinforces what mom gave you. So the mother other. Okay, this is what psychological theory says. But now you come to the issue of homosexuality. Okay, so whether or not you had a holding experience as with your mom in very, very beginnings of infancy, you are then faced with, well, for many people, mom's gaze suddenly doesn't look at you with such love and acceptance. Neither does the extended family, neither does the community, and the rest of the world is not showing you this mirror that's saying, oh, I'm awesome, I'm acceptable, that kind of thing. So if homosexuality is wrong, at the very core of a person, their very being, they are feeling unacceptable, bad, worthless, and at the mercy of that gaze from the other person, helpless to it. That gaze is just coming at them, that gaze of horror. And what does that do to a human being, to a person, to a psyche? The psyche starts defending itself against that. So it will either become fearful, distrustful, but it will defend itself against that kind of gaze, that kind of experience. And most of the time, that defense is, I don't trust you, I'm afraid of you, the world is a terrible place, it's unsafe, I better look after myself. Okay? So, at this point, if psychological theory says you need the outside to determine how you feel about yourself, then gay people are in a very difficult position. Yes? So we've got to start thinking a little bit differently, like how are you going to be okay if you can't depend on the outside world? And if you start off with not having a sense of yourself, a self-esteem, you don't have that inner core, that sense of, there's a center in me, I know who I am. You are far more diffuse. It's like your skin is, people can take you by the nose and make you feel great about yourself, or really crap. It's like, up and down. Because you don't have an organizing identity, a center that's I'm okay. And so, unless somebody comes into your life that consistently, over time, tells you, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay, you're not going to believe that. At some point, you're like, yeah, sure, I believe you. What do we do with these compliments? I don't know. So, unless it's consistent, that image of yourself doesn't change. And if you believe that the source of your life cannot accept you, your mother, then you are ultimately unacceptable. And what does that mean for your spirituality if the source of your life finds you unacceptable? So we need to begin to start thinking differently. I can't depend on the outside. I can't depend on mom. Well, and I do need a sense of myself in order to navigate the world and whatever its difficulties is. So how am I going to do that? And what I found is that if you connect with a sense of yourself to begin with, that you say, okay, forget the outside, let's go in. And you find a sense of yourself, you create it in some way, you access something to begin with, that I'm God. And what is that? To connect with ultimate perfection. It's like something has to be really good in order to convince you that you're okay. So what is that? And for me, I found it's if you connect with your spirit, your soul, that's perfection. You were created perfect. Okay? It comes from Surah Baqarah, and it says that when God created man to be on earth, He had the angels bow down to Adam and said to those angels, because the angels questioned him, you're going to have somebody down on earth who's going to make lots of nonsense and do whatever and probably dishonor you and not be in your favor, and here we are, we honor you, we are perfection. And God replies to them, you have no clue. I am the all-knowing. I know what I'm doing. Okay? And they say, yeah, actually, you're right. You are the source of all wisdom. So we don't know. And these are angels. And then He gets them to bow down, and they bow down to Adam. And it's as if, in fact, it's said that the man is above angels. And I like the translation, that's the English translation by Yusuf Ali, because He says that part of the reason why man is above angels is because they have that divine thing, which is creation. But the fact that you have will, you are a co-creator of your life. And that is a God gift. That is a godly thing I can create. Okay? Now, if you really consider that you are above angels, that you have been given this gift to create, that you have this God gift, not only of being like Him in spirit and essence, and your spirit is perfect, but that you are bowed down before by those beings closest to your Creator. If you begin to look at and think about that there is no human comprehension for what your purpose is. You don't get it. You don't. Because you are far too limited, because you are human. But you are told to trust and have faith that there is purpose, that there is meaning, that your life has worth beyond anything you can imagine or think of. So when you begin to connect with that, something's got to shift. You can't go about dishonoring yourself, being self-destructive because of a sense of I'm not worth it. Because in psychology, when you don't value yourself, you start repeating that pattern in the world. So then, where do you go? To religious leaders? You get a few that will say, you're okay. But then you doubt them and say, well, they're associated with the inner circle, they are feminists, they're on my side. God isn't. Islam says, So you can begin to even distrust those sources that will tell you. Remember I said you're not going to believe it with those compliments and all those things. So you'll distrust it all the time. So here's another gift Islam offers you. A direct relationship with your Creator. Amazing. You can take your questions to the source.
Coming out and being cut off. It took me a long time to get where I am today. And it's like I could relate to your story of taking Islam and kicking it out of the window because you didn't know how to deal with it. Not that you had. We alone do we worship. And we don't worship everybody else like yourself or the next person. And what I find difficult is the fact that it's judgmental people that think that way. So, shukran for making me realize, you know what, I am okay.
I promise you boundless love, tiresome protection, endless compassion, and abundant mercy. Plus, I will give you guidance every step of the way so that you will walk closely to your spirit and you will know who you are. Now, if I take it right back to the mother, the source of my life, looking at me in a nurturing, empathic, compassionate, loving way, and that's going to make me okay and allow me to navigate any difficulty in the world, no matter how big, then this is it. That is the ideal holding environment that psychologists talk about and do therapy about. And that's what psychologists try to recreate, is this holding environment. And if you stay in therapy for many years, long enough, you get it. If you connect with it, and if you connect with it, you will know that you're not a victim. Now please, this can be very offensive in light of those human violations we've just spoken about. They are victims. I'm talking about a victim mentality. A sense of hopelessness where you get stuck in the mud with the rest of the world and there's nothing you can do about this horrible world. You have to pull out of that mud before you can then stand on the bank and say to somebody, hey, here's a stick. I'll pull you up.
Yeah, we are not victims. And it took me back again to yesterday when we were having a panel discussion. And, one of the testimonies was Aisha's, and Aisha said that, I'm not a victim. I don't have a problem. When people don't like what they see in me, it is not my problem, but their problem. The change begins with you. That is when the change, you've been chased to that wall, and you're there, you need to turn back, and face the chasers. And, then you then see them, and then you see God in them. Because there is something that I grew up with, that, when the enemy chases you, they chase you to your blessings, they chase you to power, they chase you to victory. And we have an inscription that we put on our church bus in Nigeria, and there's no fear in love. And you've kind of combined them up there. It's like, you're talking to me. You're talking to me. And today I see God in me. I see God in everyone in this room. I see God in us. Therefore, there is no condemnation in those who believe in God.
So here's my different challenge. I'm going to turn the tables on you. And I'm saying to you, this is how you're going to do it differently. This is the tool that I offer. That you become responsible for seeing the God in somebody else. That's how you're going to change your world and their world. Because when you look at the other person and say, you just as messed up as I am in some level, you judging me, you're throwing stones at me, you're raping me, you're hurting me, you are imprisoning me. And I will still see you as the divine being you are. And I will accept that there must be some crazy purpose in all of this. And I'm going to love you. And I'm going to give you the other cheek. And when I love you, I don't judge you. I don't judge you for what you're doing to me or what you think about me. With my blessing, feel it. Think it. Do it. Even if you hurt me, I will still love you. And I will still not judge you for it. And when I do that, I feel my spirit. I know I am divine. I see God in me. And then I'm not afraid. Then I can be an activist. Because then I'm empowered. Then I'm not helpless and it's never going to change. It's an endless cycle. Nothing we can do about it. If we do fight, it's just for our own sense of... none of that is true. There's no fear, there's only hope. So ultimately, in terms of them being a clinical psychologist and sit and you think about helping somebody, don't often get to talk about their spirit. And I'm so blessed to be able to do this now, today, because it's true and it allows me to be whole. And so I thank you and I honor you for that, and I hope that you will gain something in terms of knowing how to go forward into the world that can be really, really harsh toward you as a gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender individual.
And that, continue just looking inside. When you face those difficulties in your society, just continue looking inside and trust that you, at your core of your being, you are fine.
The only thing that shifts people is connecting with something emotionally. When you shift on an emotional level, that those things that go into practice are natural. You're just not going to allow somebody to treat you badly. You won't. Your boundaries suddenly become very clear. Practice your boundaries. Know what you will allow and won't allow, and enforce it.
And I stopped her and I said, but I am happy. She turned around and said, it's not happiness, it's just stupidness. So I said, well, you know what, at the end of the day, I am happy, you can't accept it, so there's nothing I can do to change her mind. And that is how I started developing myself. However, there was times, as an individual, I found it very difficult.
You don't know if you can trust yourself. But what I'm thinking is, the first thing is, you should trust yourself, because this is the first thing, that if you can't trust anybody else, you can trust yourself. And that is where you have to stop. Trust yourself. And then you trust God. And put your faith into your trust and God's trust.
From the age of 5 already, because of the faulty belief system that I was not valuable and that I was not worthy, whatever I went out to do and whatever I started to do, I made sure that my goal was to be successful. And that message of success was kind of like, inadvertently, or I would say adversely, I used that measure as trying to reclaim my sense of worth and my sense of value. I shouldn't have done that. That was actually a faulty belief system, because by virtue of having been created by the divine, by the all-knowing, by the source itself, that in itself said that I was valuable and that I was worthwhile.
How do you get, or how do you feel or experience the stillness that you spoke about? Because I find that very challenging, and I haven't experienced the stillness yet. Even though people say, oh, okay, motivational talks and whatever, how will I know when I've reached that stillness? So, yeah.
When you start observing yourself, you will find that the observer has to be quiet in order to watch everything. I'm kind of trying to break down something that seems it's almost this esoteric experience, but I'm trying to break it down for you in a kind of a practical way. Because that stillness is almost the soul. And how do you speak about the soul and experiencing it? So these are little ways that you can try. Starting off with the body, trying to be in the moment. Like, don't think about your past or your future or anything. Just watch the body now. Observe everything in the now. And that's where you're going to start becoming that observer person. And the silence will start showing itself.
How do you find yourself if you cannot remember who you are?
Right now it's hard to hear this. It's hard to hear me tell you that you are something and that you are special.